Hi everybody, Sarah here from Living Life in Full Spectrum. I wanted to come on and do a quick video and talk to you about my new book, Stuff Paranormal Investigators Need to Know, Volume 2, My Brain is the Key That Sets Me Free. So this is part 2 of the series, hence why it's called Volume 2. If you haven't already, this is Volume 1. Volume 1 of this series was a book I was really proud of. And it is about all of the different things that can make us see, hear, feel, or think that we're experiencing something paranormal. So it was just offering an alternative explanation because we know that not everything we experience is paranormal. So it covers things like pareidolia and how our belief and cognitive bias can actually make us perceive something differently. You know, why is it that two people can be in the room and one person will think it's a profound paranormal experience, yet the person next to them will say, no, it was the wind. And so it looks at all of those kind of things, and it presents to you all of the information that you need so that you can actually make up your own mind as to what it is that you're experiencing. Because I think it's really important that once we can eliminate all the little trivial things and say, look, we know that it's not the wind, we know that it wasn't pareidolia, we know that it wasn't this, there's still stuff that you're left with, and it's really compelling once you go in at that level. So this is a book that basically kind of debunks a lot of paranormal stuff. So one of the things that people get confused about is they think it's a how to investigate the paranormal guide. It's definitely not a how to investigate the paranormal guide. It's called What the Eyes See and the Ears Hear, the Mind Believes, and that's basically what it's talking about. It's why do we see faces in clouds and faces in mist? What does our brain do to actually cause that to happen? What medical conditions can make us feel like there's a spirit around? What does static electricity do? What does barometric pressure do? All those kind of things, like why do our ears pop? All those kind of things. So that's what is in Volume 1. And Volume 2 wanted to kind of expand on that, and it was again focused on the brain, but not so much the ways that we can be tricked into thinking that something's paranormal, but what is the brain actually capable of? And this is where things like psychic ability comes in, and things like telepathy, things like psychokinesis. And so it looks at the field of parapsychology and psychical research, and looks at all of the different things from the past and how that kind of can play a role in modern day paranormal investigation. So one of the main things I guess I'll mention is you've got on here, okay, you can see I'm covered in red light and I've got ping pong balls on my eyes. So I think you can probably assume, okay, well, she's going to talk about the Ganzfeld experiment in the book, which is probably, if you're not aware of the Ganzfeld, you're probably aware of the Estes experiment, where people will have a spirit box and deprive their spirit senses and listen to a spirit box. That's kind of a modified version of what the Ganzfeld is. You've also got here the Xenocard pictures. If you follow my page, you'll know that we talk a lot about ESP, and we do Xenocard Sunday to try and look at ESP. So these are the kind of things that are in the book. And so it looks at a lot of it from a research point of view, and it looks at what researchers have found over the years, and it talks about like what the possibilities are. And one of the things that is talked about a lot in there is the fact that it could actually be us that are causing our own hauntings, and not from the perspective of that we're just misinterpreting things, but we actually could be creating them. We could be creating them on some kind of telepathic level. And so this is what this book kind of goes into. It looks at parapsychology quite a bit, and it looks at a lot of the tests that parapsychologists have done on different psychic abilities. We've got some chapters that I'll just read to you. So there's a chapter on consciousness, there's a chapter on near-death experiences, a chapter on apparitions, haunting and poltergeists, a chapter on clairvoyance, a chapter on divination, a chapter on telepathy, what is psychic ability, where could it actually come from. And so this is, just a bit of a taste of what's inside the book. Now, I'm not a psychic medium, and this is not a book about how to develop your mediumship abilities or how you can untap hidden psychic ability or anything like that. That's definitely not what this book is about, but it more so looks at it again, like I said, from a research point of view, and asks that question, like, why is it that some people are born with psychic abilities yet others can access them when they're in their 30s or 40s, or why is it some people seem to just not have any at all? And so it looks at it on that kind of of level, so from an outsider's perspective. And again, like the first book, it kind of gives you all of the information so that you can make up your own mind. One of the things that you'll see I actually talk about in the introduction is I would talk about, you know, what it feels like when you feel like you're actually experiencing something on another level, and to have the people around you tell you that it's all in your head and that you're not experiencing it just because they're not, and because I had people around me that were psychic mediums, and because they weren't experiencing what I was experiencing, they told me I was crazy, or it was all in my head, and it kind of, devalued how I felt. And so it's also about you making up your own mind and giving you the information and tools to do that, because there's nothing worse than being told what to think. So I really hope you enjoy the book. Again, it's available worldwide via Amazon, on Kindle and paperback. It will soon be available on Book Depository. And if you're in Australia, I do have a big box here waiting to go out. So if you order tomorrow, you could hopefully have it in a couple of days if Australia Post is not too slow. Just quickly, I also have another book available, the LLIFS Guide to EVP, and this is a really comprehensive guide all about EVP. So it looks at the history from when, like, the first EVP was said to be recorded over a century ago. It looks at why it's even called what it's called and where that term came from. Who are the pioneers and what was the work that they did, and what are the different ways that they did that? What are all the different ways that you can do a recording and what equipment you can use? And of course, there's a big section about why is it that we hear these noises or voices? Is it us misinterpreting what we're hearing? There's sections in there about pareidolia and what white noise can do to the brain and things like that. It's also got a note section at the back. It's got where you can some tips to do report samples and things like that. Just everything to kind of help you along the way if you want to go down the track of EVP research. So that again is also available worldwide via Amazon on paperback and Kindle, and I have copies here as well. And before I go, I'll quickly talk about Haunted Magazine. I am the Australian stockist for Haunted Magazine, so I've still got three different issues in stock at the moment. The current issue is number 30, and that has the Ghost Brothers on the front. So that's it's a really, really fun issue. There's a great feature on the Cecil Hotel. So if that's a really big sort of story at the moment, and if you watch the Cecil documentary on Netflix like I did, I absolutely loved it. You'll really enjoy that article. And there's also a lift out inside on UFO Today. So there's lots of information about some UFO cases. And I've also written about the Westall 1966 UFO sighting in UFO Today as well in that issue. There's also issue 28 available. Unfortunately, issue 29 is already sold out, so that's all gone. But this is issue 28. That has the Truth Seekers on the front. So if you watch that Amazon Prime series, there's a big feature on the Truth Seekers. And as with every issue, there's lots of paranormal content submitted from all over the world. And then there's also issue 27 available, which has Dr. Kieran O'Keefe, which you may remember from Most Haunted. He's on the front, and he's talking about ethics, and that's something that he's really, really big on. He also runs an online parapsychology school as well, since we're talking about parapsychology in volume 2. But he has done a really important piece about ethics and why it's so important in the paranormal field. And I feel anyone who is investigating the paranormal, and particularly if you're working with private cases and things like that, you should read this article about ethics, because ethics is very, very important, especially after things that I've heard over the last few days that's happening in private cases. Ethics is number one and definitely needs to be spoken about. So thank you. I think I've waffled on long enough. Thank you so much for all of the support. I really, really, really appreciate every like, every share, every time you buy a book, every time you read an article, every time you just have a look at the page. It really makes my day. So thank you so very much. I really, really appreciate it. If you haven't already, make sure you join the LLIFS mailing list. There is a post pinned to the top of the Facebook page. Every week I send out a mail out which has the new articles that have been written for the blog that week, plus some special information. So last week, for example, I sent a special link out via the newsletter to all of the people on the mailing list, which actually had the full introduction to this book that you could actually read. So that's just a bit of a peek at what you might get if you join the mailing list. So thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys really soon. Bye.